So last Wednesday night, just at the very beginning of practice, a man came in who had never been here before. And we went through the bell and the sitting practice and the chanting practice. And then Paul gave the Dharma talk. And a glitch happened in my mind. I saw that guy sitting over there. I'm pointing to where he was, and he was completely new to our practice. And I could say it almost like I got into his head, except it had nothing to do about him. I don't know him. I was kind of hoping he'd be here tonight to find out a little something, but he's not here. But what happened was, as I listened to the Dharma talk, everything got skewed in my mind. It was like my mind was a little bit off centered from listening and noticing that this guy was new here. And Paul gave a talk about practice and retreat. And I'm listening and I'm thinking, this is all jargon. He doesn't know what we're talking about. And I just heard the talk in a very strange way. And honestly, it kind of threw me off because I knew I had to answer questions after that. But I was in a very odd mental place listening to him, kind of thinking, well, what is this? And we got through the night. I think I handled things okay in the question and answer period. There's a video up from one of the pieces of my talk, and it looked reasonable. But actually, what I saw that I did is I tried to explain some of the basic things that we were doing because it felt so off and so strange. So I got home, and most of you all know my wife Sheridan is here on the video screen. And I just said something about my experience, and she looked at me. She said, it was all fine. It was a good talk. Everything was fine. But because my mind got thrown off, the whole picture was different. So it kind of got me wondering, what was that? What is this? What happened? And I've been playing with this question really all week. And you'll see as I go forward, it got me into stories and thoughts and ideas. And then maybe it was Tuesday morning, I woke up and I had this almost like the first thought that came into my mind. And it was, mind makes everything. And I was like, oh. And it kind of started to put things a little bit more in order, a little bit more making some sense to me. So I want to read you something from the morning bell chant. It's a very short, oh boy, I should have my glasses. Let me find it. Should be right here. Okay. A couple of minutes in, we say, it's not translated here. All right, let me go. Well, a couple of paragraphs in, we chant Namu. Anyway, we say homage to the Huayan Sutra. The Huayan Sutra, another name for the Huayan Sutra, is the Avatamsaka Sutra. And it's a 1,200-page parable, which I'm no scholar. I don't get near. But this is how Korean Zen, in this morning bell chant, which they do all over Korea, this is how it gets said. It says, if you wish to understand thoroughly all Buddhas, past, present, and future, you should view the nature of the universe as created by mind alone. In In Northeast Asia, which encompasses a lot of China and Korea and Japan, there was this practice called the Huayan School of Buddhism. And the Huayan School of Buddhism was the mind-only school of Buddhism. And in some ways, we're part of that tradition. Zen Master Sung San's basic teaching was primary point is before thinking mind. What is this mind before thinking? So he would say, your before thinking mind, my before thinking mind, same mind. But you begin to think, I begin to think, your mind and my mind are separated a million miles apart. You've seen me do this, so I'm holding these up. Everybody sees them. Immediately, you understand. Once you start to think about it, the first thing you do is name it. So already you see it. No questions asked. Then when you start to think about it, you name it. Oh, these are beads. And then I'm going to put it up close here for all of you in the room. If you could get up close to it, you might notice that these are kind of old, inexpensive wooden beads. Nothing special. All of those words are made by thinking. I love these beads. I've been using these beads for years. My beads at home I lose once in a while. The beads at the Zen Center I can keep for years and years and years until somehow it ends up not being on my hook anymore. But I've had these beads, the darkness of the color, the feel of the beads as I use them. I lead walking meditation and I'm chanting in my mind Kwanzaa and Bosal, and I'm moving the beads. These beads in my hand are like one thing. That's a total story that has no real basis in reality. That's my dream. These are just as they are, before thinking. So now's the point for our quintessential story about Huan Hyo. For those of you who don't know who Huan Hyo became a very famous Zen master in Korea. I'm guessing in the 1200s, 1100s, somewhere around there, early in Zen, early in Buddhism in Korea. And it was so early that most of the teachers were in China. So Huan Hyo decided that in order to get the authentic Dharma, he needed to go to China. There were no buses, there were no trains, no airplanes. He started walking. I don't know the geography of northern Korea in the country that we now call North Korea. So he's walking. Apparently there's a desert there. So he gets to an oasis at the end of the evening and he says, wonderful, I can sleep here. There's some water. Everything's great. Once again, all made by thinking. So he goes to sleep, and in the middle of the night, he wakes up and he's really thirsty. And he reaches over to his cup, and he grabs his cup, and he drinks it. He's refreshed, and he goes back to sleep. Next morning, he wakes up. It's light. He looks down. What he thought was his cup was a recently killed animal skull with like meat still hanging on the skull. And there's kind of liquid in this skull that was probably a mixture of water and blood. And he looks in it and there's maggots in the water. And he gets so disgusted that he vomits. And then the story goes, he woke up. He realized last night I was thirsty. I thought this was wonderful. This morning I see what I drank and it made me throw up. I get it. Mind makes everything. Great, he said. He turned around. He said, I don't need to go to China anymore. I got it. And he goes home, and the way the story goes, he becomes the national teacher in Korea. Very high class job. He's got the finest robes, everything. He's got his heart's desires full. So now I'm going to tell the part of the story I never tell, because the next part of this, I'll telegraph it. The next part of the story challenges my view of morality and ethics. And I'm uncomfortable with this story. But to be honest, this is how I learned the story. And I can hear Zen Master Sung telling the story. I can hear his belly laugh. He loved this story. But it makes me uncomfortable. So I'm going to tell you the rest of the story. So the story goes that many years into being the national teacher of Korea, he got seduced by the finery and power and privilege of his job. Anything he wanted, he could have. And after, I don't remember what it was, 20 years of this, he realized that he was stuck. In some ways, he was back to his mind before he had the awakening at the oasis in the desert. He was attached to his desire, his mind, his view of things. So he was stuck. Now, it's actually an important point that he realized this. And I was heading to this towards the end of the talk, but as I'm telling you this, what was important about what happened last Wednesday in the Dharma room here was that I realized what had happened. I could watch my mind, and through my exploration and curiosity, I could explore the discomfort that I was feeling. So back to Wan Hyo. He's at the pinnacle. Everybody's bowing to him. He's the supreme leader. Something finally gets to him. Something's wrong here. So he knows about this Zen master who lives in poverty up in the mountains. So he says, I got to go see this guy. He's humbled enough by his experience and his recognition of his attachments that he says, okay, I need help. Isn't that something when you finally realize you need help? We all have this, especially the Zen master, and maybe I could put myself in this. It's like, you're at the top. Who's going to help you? So he had to be humble enough to realize he had a problem. So he gets up, he goes to see the Zen master in the mountains, and he tells the Zen master his problem. And the Zen master says, I understand. I know how to fix this problem. So the way the story goes, in this town, there's this prostitute called Passamillion. And the mythology of Passamillion is that every man who had sex with her got enlightenment. So the Zen master says, you go and spend the night with Passamillion, and this will help you understand. So he says, okay, I asked for help. This is the help I'm getting. He goes. So the story goes, he goes and he spends the night with Passamillion. And the way it's written, he broke numerous precepts. And the next morning, they could see him in town wearing tattered robes, ringing a bell. And now I'm going to blank out a little bit, but he's ringing at the bell saying something like, peace, peace, peace. I'm sorry, Marshall? day on, which means peace, peace, peace.
Name of the Zen Master in London.
Say that again?
It's the name of it's the Dharma.
Oh, yeah.
Zen Master in
All
London.
right. That's not an important point. Thank you for that, though. So, breaking his precepts woke him up. So, the reason I'm telling this part of the story is that ethically, I think this is terrible. In Jeff's mind, in the 21st century, we don't glorify that kind of behavior. In the 12th century in Korea, it was held differently. I don't really want to change my view, to be honest. But it helps me realize that it is my view. And correct and incorrect are made by thinking. What was correct in 11th century Korea, maybe today we don't think of as correct. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to go back. But yet, do I really know for sure what right and wrong is? Is my sense of morality and ethics right, or is it just mine? We're in an inquiry practice. I don't have to answer that question. I have to inquire. So when I got home after the talk, I noticed my discomfort. What we usually want to do with our discomfort is soothe it and push it away. And this didn't happen this time, but on Thursday in the early afternoon, I have a meeting with some very close friends of mine. We're three therapists. We've been meeting. There used to be a couple more. We've been meeting since I joined the group in 1990. We're very close. And it's the kind of story, going back to last Wednesday night, that I would often bring to the group and say, look what happened. These are some of my closest friends. They love me. I know that. And what happens is when I'll tell a story like this, their first reaction is usually to try to soothe me and tell me that everything's okay and that I was right. It doesn't really fit exactly for this story. But they'll often, because we care about somebody, we often want to hold them gently, let them know that it's really okay. But that's not necessarily the most helpful thing. And often what happens when they do that, I start pushing back at them. You're just trying to support me. You're missing the point. The hardest thing for us to do is to challenge our assumption, to take that discomfort, and rather than try to soothe it and let us know that everything's okay, to actually use it as that proverbial grain of sand that the oyster uses to create a pearl. The pearl grows out of the irritation. Our desire to soothe our irritation is actually the way we can kill our practice. Now, in some ways, we need to do this as human beings, but our practice is about pushing into those places that are uncomfortable and asking the question, what am I? What is this? So my experience last Wednesday night actually helped open to me to the question, what are we actually doing here at the Zen Center? What is it that we're teaching? What is it that we're practicing? And for me, at least, I can't answer that for anybody else. But for me, at least, I'm practicing to be able to take in the discomfort and rather than make it go away with nice feelings, to move toward it, to get close to it, to get familiar with it. You could say in a very simple way, it's to watch my mind and learn how it is that Jeff's conditioned mind operates. To get familiar means to learn how to not be fooled by our own, if you will, bullshit. And to be able to smell it and to realize it and to use our practice as a kind of alchemy to take that bullshit and turn it into gold. Or maybe you could say to take that bullshit and turn it into our bodhisattva vow of living a life that's directly connected to this very moment, not my fantasy about the moment, to be able to recognize my fantasies, my beliefs, my conditioning, my fears, my needs, and not push them away and blur it out and make it all okay. And also not to pull it too close and turn it into some cudgel that I can beat myself with. The middle way. Maybe we could say to go back in, to slow our breath down, to do those instructions that Ben gave us tonight of slowly breathing in, slowly breathing out, finding our ground. And from that place of the ground, just looking and watching. And my experience is the more I look, the more I watch, there's something that seems like wisdom that grows. Oh, yeah, that was my neediness. Oh, yeah, I didn't really like, it gets so subtle. I didn't like what that person was wearing. And because of what they were wearing, I discounted what they said. In some ways, that's human. That's okay. But isn't it good to know that we're doing it? And once I know that I'm doing it, then there's a chance to do something about it. Maybe I'll end with one of Zen Master Sung San's lines, where he would say, "Mistake is no problem. Only make it correct." We need that wisdom. We need that perspective. We need that gritty getting close to what makes us uncomfortable to be able to turn our mistake into what's correct. And in Zen Master Sung San's teaching, correct means turn it into something that helps other people. So, okay, one last story. So, about 25 years ago, I went up to Seattle and I did a week-long meditation retreat with a Zen master named Harada Roshi. And at the end of the retreat, he had a question and answer period. And I think he told this story. The person didn't ask the question, but it'll flow better. So this woman raises her hand and she said, 20 years ago, I had an abortion. And I can't get over it. I just feel like it was wrong, it wasn't right, and I'm stuck. Can you help me? And he said, yes, I can. He said, that experience that you had is a valuable experience. Take that experience and go talk to other women who are in the same situation. Don't run away from that experience. Take that experience and use it. There are many women right now who are struggling with the same question. So help them. Use your experience to offer it up to the world. Even the bad experiences, even the experiences we're ashamed of. We carry a lot of shame with things. You know what it's like? We cringe when we think about that thing we did 40 years ago. That's a jewel. That's the piece of sand of your awakening. If you can, rather than cringe and put it away, bring it closer. What am I? What is this? Who was that? Where did that come from? At very least, you'll likely be able to find some compassion for that younger person who was really struggling in that moment. We close ourselves in by our judgments and our fears, and practice is about opening the window, letting some air in, letting yourself breathe into it and recognize that the stories that I tell myself, the beliefs that I have, as valuable and as important as they are, they're made by mind alone. And the world is bigger than my mind. My little mind is trying to put things into shape so I feel safe and secure. Practice is opening that window and finding out how humongously large the possibilities of mind actually are. So all of these practices that we offer, all of the things that I felt were jargon today are so valuable. Find your breath. Become aware of this moment. Go down deep into your lower abdomen. Find your center. And from there, truly don't know. What is this? This inquiry is not, it's not, I don't know. It's not it. It's bigger. Keep the great question. What am I? What is this? Let your mind open. Let the wisdom appear and use that to help the world. That's our practice. So thank you very much for listening.